Dragged out in handcuffs for a crime he didn't commit, Prosecutor Martin James found himself fighting a system built to break him. But in court, he didn't just prove his innocence. He exposed the lies and deep-rooted prejudice against him. What happened next stunned everyone. Let's start from the beginning. Martin James had always been a man of principle. His confidence and poise honed through years of standing in front of packed courtrooms. At just 33, he had already built a reputation as a sharp and fearless prosecutor, unafraid to tackle tough cases. Yet, none of his legal experience prepared him for the humiliation that unfolded in a local grocery store on what should have been a quiet evening. Returning to his hometown after his mother's surgery, Martin had stepped into the familiar store to gather ingredients for her favorite dinner. Clad in a tailored blazer and carrying himself with the quiet dignity that defined him, he exuded professionalism. The last thing he expected was to become the target of a public spectacle. As Martin browsed the shelves, the peace was shattered by a piercing yell. "Thief! He stole my watch!" He turned to see an elderly white woman pointing at him, her face contorted with accusation and fear. For a moment, he stood frozen, the weight of her words crashing into him like a wave. The once bustling store fell silent, shoppers stopping in their tracks to gawk. "Ma'am, I think you're mistaken," Martin said, his voice calm but firm. He had diffused countless tense situations in the courtroom, but this was different. This was personal. "Don't lie," she snapped. "You grabbed my watch right off the counter." Within moments, security guards appeared, their suspicious gazes fixed on Martin. Despite his protests, they called the police. The situation spiraled further when two officers, Jack Callahan and Peter Martinez, arrived and immediately honed in on Martin. "You. Hands where I can see them," Callahan barked, his tone leaving no room for debate. "Officers, there's been a misunderstanding. I haven't stolen anything," Martin tried to explain, but Callahan dismissed his words, grabbing his arm roughly. "For the judge," the officer sneered. As Martin was led out in handcuffs, humiliation burned in his chest. Onlookers filmed the scene, their murmurs stinging like salt on a wound. Despite the injustice, Martin remained calm. He knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of his fight for justice. At the police station, Martin James sat alone in the stark interrogation room, his wrists bound by cold, steel handcuffs. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed faintly, casting an unforgiving glare on the beige walls and scuffed metal table. Martin's calm demeanor, though strained, never cracked as he asserted his innocence time and again. "I'm a prosecutor," he stated for the fourth time, his voice steady despite the building frustration. "You're making a serious mistake." Officer Jack Callahan, leaning casually against the wall, sneered at him. "Just admit it. We know your type, always claiming you're innocent." Martin's dark eyes locked onto Callahan's, his tone measured. "I'm innocent because I didn't do it. Did you even check the surveillance footage?" Callahan smirked, crossing his arms. "Don't worry about that." Officer Peter Martinez, sitting stiffly in the corner, avoided Martin's gaze as he added, "We've got witnesses." Martin could feel the weight of injustice pressing down on him, but he refused to let it break his composure. Every second in that room only sharpened his resolve to fight back. Across town, Erica Simmons, a tenacious defense attorney and Martin's trusted ally from law school, received his call. Hearing his calm but urgent voice, she immediately sprang into action. At the station, Erica demanded access to the evidence. "Where's the surveillance footage? Or are you relying solely on a shaky accusation?" she pressed, her tone cutting. Her persistence was met with vague responses and endless delays. tactics designed to stall the truth from coming to light. The next morning, Martin stood in court for his arraignment. The prosecutor presented the elderly woman's statement, bolstered by the testimony of a supposed witness who claimed to have seen Martin flee the scene. Martin's jaw tightened as he listened, each lie compounding the injustice of the situation. When the judge denied bail, citing the fabricated testimony and the seriousness of the charges, Martin remained outwardly calm. He knew his freedom would have to be fought for in court, one piece of evidence at a time. This wasn't just a fight for himself. It was a battle to expose the system's flaws and dismantle the lies stacked against him. The tension in the courtroom was palpable on the day of the trial. Every seat was filled, and the air buzzed with anticipation as spectators, journalists, and legal professionals gathered to witness the high-profile case of a black prosecutor accused of theft. Martin James, dressed impeccably in a dark suit, entered with an air of quiet determination. By his side was Erica Simmons, his fiery co-counsel, who had been instrumental in building their defense. The prosecution wasted no time in presenting its case. With dramatic flair, the prosecutor painted Martin as a man who thought he was above the law, leveraging the testimony of the elderly woman and an alleged witness, a store employee, who claimed Martin had behaved suspiciously. The narrative was compelling, and some jury members initially appeared uneasy, swayed by the emotional appeal. When Martin took the floor, the atmosphere shifted. His calm, authoritative voice commanded attention as he began by addressing the jury directly. "The truth," he said, his gaze sweeping the room, "is often buried under assumptions. Today, we will unearth it." He started by introducing the surveillance footage, evidence Erica had fought tirelessly to secure. As the video played, the courtroom watched intently. It showed Martin casually browsing the aisles, never coming near the counter where the watch had been placed. The stark contrast between the prosecution's claims and the evidence was undeniable. "I'd like to remind the court," Martin said, his voice steady but firm, "that evidence speaks louder than assumptions." Next, Martin called the elderly woman to the stand. His cross-examination was methodical and precise, exposing contradictions in her testimony. When he asked if she had actually seen him holding the watch, her confidence wavered. "Well, I thought I did," she admitted, her voice trembling. The courtroom murmured, and the jury began to exchange skeptical glances. Finally, Martin questioned the store manager, who reluctantly revealed that the supposed witness had not even been present during the alleged theft. The revelation was a turning point, shattering the credibility of the prosecution's case. As Martin returned to his seat, the jury's shifting body language spoke volumes. Doubt was setting in, and Martin's relentless pursuit of truth was beginning to turn the tide. On the final day of the trial, Martin presented his closing argument. He spoke with passion and precision, addressing the biases that had fueled the accusation against him. "This case isn't just about a watch," Martin said, his voice steady. "It's about the dangerous assumptions that led to my arrest. Assumptions about who I am, based on nothing more than the color of my skin. I am not only innocent, I am living proof of how deeply prejudice can infect justice." The jury deliberated for hours, but the verdict came back clear: not guilty. The courtroom erupted in whispers, but Martin remained composed, though relief washed over him. After the trial, Erica approached him with a proud smile. "You didn't just clear your name," she said. "You exposed the truth." Officer Callahan and the elderly woman faced scrutiny for their actions, and the police department announced a review of its procedures. Martin's ordeal became a rallying point in his community, sparking conversations about justice and accountability. As he walked out of the courthouse, Martin took a deep breath. He had fought not just for himself, but for every person who had ever been judged unfairly. And he knew his battle for justice was far from over.